All right. So it's my special pleasure to introduce Extension Professor Heather Darby. So Heather won the 2023 Vogelman Award, so well over a year ago. And the award winner always gives a talk. And Heather is so busy running her awesome research program with her. She's got a huge research team. She brings in millions of dollars of research, so she can be hard to track down. But we've got her here today. She could have given a talk in a nice dry room somewhere, but this will be memorable, right, Heather? And and so Heather, like the namesake of this award, how Vogelman is a pioneer in her field. She's forward thinking, a humble leader, and she has made significant impacts on dairy-based organic agriculture, nutrient management planning, and local grain production, both regionally and nationally. And in fact, I heard her on Vermont Public just the other week being interviewed about growing grains in Vermont and how she has helped with the timing of grain production so to improve the starch content and make the wonderful bread that we have here in Vermont. So with that, Heather is going to tell us about, let's see, a story of dedication, drive, and determination to support a resilient agriculture in the Green Mountain State.
Leslie wanted a title. That was what I came up with. Anyway, so thank you so much. I'm Heather Darby, and I'm an extension agronomist and soil specialist with UVM Extension. And I have been for 21 years now. Most of the people that were here when I was hired have made the retirement list. So, you know, I do have a lot of people that I wanted to thank for helping me achieve all the things that I've achieved so far. 21 years, I sort of feel like I'm just getting started. So there's a lot more to go. Yeah. I didn't know Dr. Vogelman at all. Never met him in my time at UVM. I think he had retired. I don't know. I knew Tom Vogelman, his son, of course. Correct, right? I'm assuming. But I did, you know, somebody has an award named after them. Certainly they deserve that in some way. And they were probably someone pretty special. And so I feel pretty special that I got this award. And so I wanted to understand who Dr. Vogelman was and why I got this, you know, sort of makes sense, right? So I Googled him. And there was a lot written about him, especially after he had passed away. And there were so many things that I read about when I was reading about him that made me feel that if he was sitting here today, he would be very proud that the award was granted to me. That seems very self-centered that I just said that, doesn't it? Anyway, but I had no connection to him. And I wanted to, because it felt special. And there were a couple of things that people wrote about him that I thought, yeah, that's exactly how I am too. He was a man of the land. I'm a woman of the land. And he had a deep connection with the forests, the waterways, and the wetlands of Vermont. And I have a very deep connection with Vermont, all of it. And his unflinching drive to protect those ecosystems. Yep, that's me. That led to his remarkable success as a conservationist. And when I read that, I thought, wow, I feel like I know him. There was another piece about how much he cared about research, scholarship, and teaching, which I know a lot of us do. But the last part, I feel like, is something that has driven my success, which is also my love and commitment to community. And I know a lot of people here are the same way. And the community, not just where I live, not just at UVM, but this entire state. I am absolutely in love with Vermont and the place that I live. And that has driven me, like I said, like with tunnel vision almost, to do everything possible to make it a better place. And my focus has been on agriculture. I don't hardly know any of you, but I was raised here in Alberg. Anybody know where that is? Oh, amazing. In the Lake Champlain Islands. It's actually not even really a part of Vermont. It's only attached to Canada. And it's almost as far away that you can be in Vermont when you work there. So whenever I do anything in Vermont, I have to drive, right? Because if I drive north, I'm in Canada and a half a mile. If I drive west and a half a mile, I'm in New York. And so anywhere that I've ever had to go for my work in Vermont, I've had to drive and drive and drive. And I grew up in Alberg on a dairy farm, like many, families did. And I loved it. But it was hard. My family was very poor. And we struggled a lot, like many farmers do still today. And when you're little and you're struggling, you don't really know until the kids at school pick on you because you have holes in your shoes and you look weird and you dress funny and you smell like barn. But anyway, until you go to school, everything is fine. But, I grew up learning how to work really hard, how to care for the community around me, how to really not care about things, mostly because we didn't have them, and to just take care of each other. And that's some of the traits that my family and my community gave to me. And my mom was, Deb Haliba, by the way, told me to tell my story. So if you're already bored and you're thinking, I can't believe she's telling us this, it's her fault. My mom was a teenage mom. She got pregnant when she was 16. And not with me, but my younger sister. And she got married to my dad when she was 20. She had me when she was 20. And then she had my youngest sister when she was 23. My parents had all of their kids before they were 23 years old, bought a farm, and were living and working and trying to make it when they were 23 years old, right? And anyway. But my mom, like every parent and every mother of a young daughter, definitely didn't want that for us, right? She had 3 girls. And she told me and my sisters that she was going to make us go to college and she was going to make us stand up on our own 2 feet and be able to take care of ourselves and that we wouldn't need anybody to take care of us. So when I told her I wanted to be a farmer, so now I'm telling you, we're poor, we had nothing. And they struggled every day. And I mean, my parents were on welfare, for God's sakes, and we were farmers, like there's something wrong with that. And the last thing she wanted to hear come out of her daughter's mouth was that I wanted to stay here on our farm and be a farmer. And immediately, so does anybody remember the school day books? Do you have those for your kids now, where you would write who your best friend was and who your teacher was? You put your little report card in there and then what you wanted to be when you grew up. So first I wrote I wanted to be a ballerina. Obviously would have been a bad career choice for me. Then I wanted to be a fire person. That would have also probably been a bad career choice. And then I wanted to be a farmer and a farmer and a farmer and a farmer. And my mom every year would be like, you'll get over that. So when I got old enough and I was kind of approaching the time where I was in high school and would go to college, my mom was really adamant about us like checking out schools. I mean, barely before I even got in high school, because she really wanted us to get good jobs and probably take care of her. If she was here, she'd kill me right now. By the way, I'm really afraid of her. So I'm glad she's not here. Because I had to lie to her a lot. But so then when I was in high school, we had to do this project about to interview somebody who had a career that we would want to be when we, went on to college and became an adult. So I said to my mom, do you think I could just interview Dad? Oh my gosh, you want to talk about a mic drop moment? And so she said, absolutely not. You're going to have a real job. And so my dad took me to see Ev Thomas, who I think some of you might know, might be around long enough to know Ev Thomas from the Minor Institute. He was an agronomist. And my dad took me there, and I went in his office, and I sat down, and the first thing I saw was his college degree on the wall from the University of Connecticut. And I thought, wow, that's cool. If I go to college, I'm going to get a degree like that. I'm going to put it in a frame, and I'm going to put it on the wall. Like that sounds like a plan. So I interviewed Ev Thomas, and I thought, sounds pretty cool. He works with plants, and he works with crops, and he works with farmers. I kind of like that. I think I'm going to be an agronomist. So I went home, and I told my mom that I'm not going to be a farmer. I'm going to be an agronomist. And she had a big party that weekend, knowing that she had finally convinced me that I would not be a farmer, and that she didn't know what an agronomist was, but it sounded like somebody that was going to make a lot of money. So on and so forth. I actually did go to school to be an agronomist, more or less because it sounded like a cool, like a title, right? People always go, what's an agronomist? And they can't even pronounce it, even though it's not that hard to pronounce. But I thought it would be a cool thing to do. So I found a school that had an agronomy program, which was not UVM. It was called something else. So I couldn't actually come to UVM because they didn't actually have an agronomy program. And I wanted to be an agronomist, so I went to UNH. Sorry. And then I went on to the University of Wisconsin after that, and then to Oregon State. But deep down in my heart, you guys, knowing what you know now, where did you think I wanted to go? Back home. So I knew that was my destiny. I only have 30 minutes, and plus Leslie took some of my time. So, and I'm only in college. So anyway, I really wanted to come back to Vermont. I knew I was going to come back regardless. All this school schmool stuff was really like to appease my mother, go and get a college degree, come home, take over my family's farm, and then everything would be fine. So I got all the way out to Oregon and I got a PhD because I wasn't ready to come home yet. And when you're in a position like someone like me, I couldn't just make an excuse to not come home, right? Like a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to spend the summer in Europe and I'm going to travel around and find myself, which is great. But I didn't have that sort of opportunity or luxury. If I was going to be away, I had to be very productive and have a really good reason to not be back home. And so I just kept going until I got the last degree that I could get. And postdocs weren't really a big deal back then. So, I mean, I didn't really think about doing that. And when I was at Oregon State, I was my second year into my PhD program, and I saw the advertisement for the UVM extension job in St. Albans, and I threw it in the trash because I was only 2 years into it. But in the back of my mind, I knew that's my job. That's mine. And so I got the second advertisement. I was like, what am I going to do? And I went to my advisor, Alex Stone, and her and I disliked each other most of the time, but she somehow understood me and understood what was really, really important. And she said, well, yeah, that's your job. Just apply for it. And if they give it to you, we'll worry about all the rest of this stuff later. I was like, oh, okay. So I applied, and Sid Bosworth, who's now retired, was on the hiring committee. And I have to thank Sid for a lot of things. He was a great mentor. But he called me and he said, well, I hate to tell you this, but we already filled all the interview slots. I was like, oh, well, at least I tried. I can't regret that for the rest of my life. And And then a month later, he called me back and said, wow, guess what? Somebody took another job. Do you want to come for the interview? So I did. And that was in January. And they offered me, UVM Extension offered me the job in March. And I told that March of 2000 something. Wow. 2003. I don't know, 21 years ago, too. And I said, okay, can I start in a year when I finish? And they said yes. Because they knew I'd never leave once I got here, and I haven't. And I have been 100% absolutely dedicated to doing everything that I can within my power, and everybody else is here that I've utilized to help the people of Vermont in a lot of different ways. And I really do need to thank all the people I've tortured because what I've done has been a little bit different and not the usual kind of academic researcher pathway. And, you know, it's taken time for all of us to adjust constantly to what I'm trying to do and get done. So thank you, HR. Thank you. Thank you, CALS. Thank you, everybody who's sort of dealt with that in the grants office and all of those people who said, what is a hop gun? Can you buy a hop gun? Why are you buying guns? So I also wanted to take some time to thank Deb Haliba, who nominated me for this award and felt that I was worthy to receive it. So thank you so much. And to Jana Kraft and Eric von Wetberg, who supported her in that way and also felt that I was worthy to receive such an honor on behalf of a person that I never met, but feel like I would have admired. And we probably would have been really great friends. So, am I out of time yet? Oh, all right. So, by the way, my mom was really proud that I got a PhD and a job. And she finally did sign the papers for me and my husband, Ron, to buy our family's farm when we moved back. But you know, I think like a lot of farm families, you know, it's hard. It's hard growing up that way. It instills a lot of very important values that I have that I'm trying to give to my son. But unless you've actually had to struggle, it's hard to make your kids struggle, right? Isn't that true? I feel like withholding some things, but I just can't do it. But my mom is very proud to this day, and my dad, of course, too, who is my biggest fan, but passed away earlier this year. And oh my God, when he found out I got this award, which I didn't tell him because I don't tell people these things, not a big deal. He found out by his friend who's on the internet. Sorry. That I got this award, and his friend who's on the internet printed it off and brought it to him, and he was so very proud. But my dad also thought that I figured out climate change, so I was really a hero to him, not how to solve it, but that it existed. So anyway, I miss all of those people. So all of my, I never considered myself a researcher, you know, always an extension person, faculty member. But, you know, I just sort of fall in this weird place, this sort of gray area where I'm out on all of these farms and with all of these people all the time. And I see and I learn and I observe and I understand, you know, what they're struggling with or what they need or where they're trying to go or where they are and maybe they shouldn't be. But this really unique opportunity to see all these things and help to solve real problems on the ground. But I didn't have always a way to provide the answers because we didn't know them. And I've always done research, you know, as a student, but I didn't have a research appointment here. And I just started doing research to answer the questions that the farmers had. And fast forward 20 years, and I am still doing that. And apparently I feel like I have to answer every question, every problem that any farmer has ever put in front of me, because am I supposed to change a slide somehow? I do have slides. Because, I've through that built a huge program to help me do it. And maybe that was the wrong way to go. And somebody said, how did you get where you were? I have no idea how I got here. It's not like I showed up in St. Albans with this old nasty metal desk with Craig Altamose, if anybody knew him, computer, right? Didn't even have a new computer, thanks to Bob Parsons, who felt bad for me and bought me a computer. There was no startup package. There was nothing. There was like an empty desk, and it was an old metal desk and with an old computer that wouldn't even start. And so would I have imagined this? No. But I knew that I wanted to help farmers here, and this is kind of what it resulted in. I don't know where it's going from here. If you want to know that answer, I guess come back in 20 years. So I have a really great team that helps make all of this happen. We should dress them up a little bit better. These photos aren't that great. Some of these people aren't even here anymore. Anyway, but we have about a team of about 17, which includes program manager, a number of like research technicians, outreach specialists, various coordinators, people that are helping with finances, and our token random sensory person, Roy. He loves it when I call him that. To help carry out all of this work. So there's a ton of work. There actually probably should be more of us. Look at me, look at you, Roy. I'm going, who is this guy? Why is he in our picture? Anyway, so our work occurs everywhere, really, all over the state, but we did create a research facility because, like I said, I didn't have a research appointment. I didn't have any place to do research. I didn't have any research equipment. So I went to my neighbor, Roger Rainville, and said, can I put a research plot here 21 years ago? And fast forward 21 years later, and it's a full-blown research facility. We also conduct a lot of research on farms all across the state and in other states too. We have a lot of work in New York. We created a crop quality testing lab, which is a public-facing lab in the Jeffords building to help farmers, basically grain farmers, test the quality of their grain for bakers and brewers. We have a lot of online tools, apps, all kinds of decision support tools. We have classes, courses, outreach materials, and then we just provide technical assistance. So we have a really big program that reaches the whole state, all different corners, all different types of farms. And really my goal is to, not just be a conduit of other people's information, that we're creating information here that the farmers need, that's on the soil, in the climate, and delivered to them in ways that they can get it. And that's always been my top priority. So my publication record isn't that great. Anyway, sorry. We have a ton of partners. We work with basically anybody who will work with us. And that's been great. It's really expanded our reach and what we do. And it's been wonderful having so many collaborations. We get a lot of funding from all over the place, little, big, in the middle, $500, $1 million. You got it, I'll take it. Like Bottle Drive, haven't gotten there yet, but you never know. So this is the research facility up in Alberg. Usually we have between 50 and 70 unique experiments every year on all different crops and topics. It's something, if you've never been there, visited, you should. It's really great. It's on a private farm and all funded through, primarily soft money. That's Roger. I couldn't do much without him. I wouldn't be, it's his farm. No, I wouldn't be there without him. But Roger's taught me a lot over the years. Like, probably the best thing he taught me was work smarter, not harder. And he's taught me a lot, and I just really value everything that he's done for our team, for the farmers in Vermont, and for UVM. These are all the different trials, lots and lots and lots of stuff, lots of topics, from conservation, soil health, cover crops, environment, different fertility projects, greenhouse gases, basic agronomy, on grass, on corn, on soybeans, on perennial forages, all very practical and applied research that, again, just makes its way right back out to the farms. Just tons of stuff, tons and tons and tons of stuff. It's really cool. I don't actually stop that often to reflect on how much information we've produced. So we're trying to hire an outreach. I can't even believe I just said that. We're trying to hire somebody to help us communicate all of our work, because there's a lot of it. I can't say communication specialist because apparently we're not supposed to have those, right? So I call them outreach person, right, HR? Yes. Okay. All right. So on-farm research has been really core to the work that I do. It's interesting because as researchers, we test a lot of things and we kind of find the things that work, and then we publish on those, and maybe that's where it ends. But my goal is to look at all these little things in a plot, small plot, find some of the good things, and then bring those out to farms and test them on a farm. Okay. And that helps us with taking that research, putting it in a more practical situation, and then further leading us to adoption. So, we kind of try to take some of the risk out of it, find the good things, the best things that we got. Then we try to bring them out onto farms. Then we kind of dial it in even more or throw it out the door at that point, and then hope for the next step, which is that somebody will adopt it. And it's happened, believe it or not. So not only do I get to create all this great information, hopefully by the end, I get to watch people put it into place. And I know not a lot of people get that opportunity, but I do. And that's probably one of the most rewarding parts of my job. There's Sid. He's trying to get in on my, look at you, Sid. He's like, but that's Jack Laser. He passed away a few years ago. He was a great friend and colleague, and I couldn't sort of have and say anything about my career without, shouting out to Jack, who taught me a lot about many, many things, but helped me with on-farm research, really understanding organic agriculture, and moving farming and communities together as one in Vermont. And I say that because Jack was really a strong organic advocate. But with Jack, we could always talk to every farm. And so I remember when I was younger, farmers would say, she only works with organic farms. Or they might say, she only works with conventional farms. She grows GMOs or whatever, But there are certain farmers like Jack, Dickie Longway, all of them have passed, that wanted to create a farming network together, not apart. And people like Jack helped me do that, which I think is really important for the university, to create really strong, cohesive bonds between all of our community members, sometimes regardless of our individual beliefs. Okay. This was a lot of fun. That's my phone. Damn, farmers are calling. You know what they're calling about? That it's raining and they're watching the river come up down on the Winooski and they're freaking out. Okay, so I'll try to wrap it up here, but I've had so much fun. This is probably one of the most fun things that I've done a lot of fun things, but A group of farmers and I went out to Washington State. There's Jack Laser and Seth Johnson. He farms over in Glover. And we wanted to develop our own grain varieties here in Vermont. So we went out to Washington State and learned how to be wheat breeders. Anyway, there's a reason people are specialized in certain fields. And this is one of the reasons that, look at poor Jack. He's like, I can't see these little anthers. But anyway, we tried to become wheat breeders here in Vermont, the three of us, and created our own varieties. We were highly unsuccessful. But what we did was we built collaborations with wheat breeders out at Washington State, and they helped us make the crosses that we wanted, and then provided those varieties to us, and we're using some of those today. So anyway, it's just a picture out in Washington. So I know, just tell me when I'm out of time, because I think I got the point across, okay. But we have a lot of different work. I also wanted to put a shout out for Erica Cummings, who was an employee here, a staff member at UVM for I don't know how many years. She worked with the testing lab, soils and forage testing lab, and left that and went to the Peace Corps and worked on a farm, and then came back and worked with me in my program. And Erica passed away also a couple of years ago, right around the same time that Jack Laser passed away. And I really miss her because she was a good friend. But it was Erica that really helped put together which is now called E.E. Cummings, which was Erica's initials, crop quality testing laboratory, because it was really her that set up all the equipment and kept everything going and developed that lab to serve farmers in this state, but also across the entire country at this point. When we opened this lab, and maybe you heard this on the radio, there was no way for grain farmers to get the quality of their wheat tested. And so if they were going to sell it to a baker, the baker wanted to know, well, is it good enough to bake bread? But there was no way to do that east of the Mississippi, right? And other places that offered those tests were far away and very expensive. And with the help of farmers and a couple of foundations and Erica, we opened the first grain quality testing lab east of the Mississippi that was open to the public and still is today. It's run by Hillary Emick on my team, and farmers, small farmers all across the country utilize this lab. Anyway, I miss you, Erica. There she is. So I don't know. Probably not what you're expecting, but hey, I aim to surprise. But I've had a blast at UVM. It hasn't been easy, I will say, doing what I do, research, like trying to work in real time, often with real people and real scenarios. It's hard to do that kind of work within the confines of the university. It really is. It's almost impossible. And it's gotten harder. And sometimes I feel like that's my biggest hurdle every day. It's not trying to get farmers to do things and adopt things. I haven't figured that out all the time, but I know the approach I need to use, and so I really do appreciate all of the folks at UVM that have helped me achieve all of this. I could have never done it without them, both my colleagues, all the people in administration, and people that have worked on my team and people that I've partnered with. You've made a difference in farmers' lives and people's lives in Vermont. And I know you don't get to reap that same reward that I get to reap when I see all the cover crops across the state of Vermont, knowing that we all had something to do with that. That's rewarding to me. But unfortunately for all of you, you don't get that same reward. So I just want you to know how much I've appreciated your help, but everyone else too. So thank you.